Hey everybody, this is David at BarnYard Bees. Well, it's late July and we're definitely in what they call the dearth. And for you new beekeepers that doesn't know what that means, dearth means the lack of, and what they're talking about is the lack of mostly nectar. There is some pollen around, because I do have a pollen feeder right there, the big blue down there to the right of the duck, and they're not hardly touching it. They're starting to pay a little bit of attention to it, but not much. We had a big bloom of clover this year and dandelion in our own yard, and it's pretty much gone for the year. It'll pop up a little bit here and there, but not much. But anyway, I talk about this every year, is the dearth and the importance of, and I'm a firm believer in this time of the year. Now it varies throughout the country. Here in North Georgia, the dearth usually begins about July, the start of it, and not so bad, but it all really depends on how much rain we get. We come into July with a kind of a drought and not hardly much rain, so we got into it pretty quickly. So it advanced pretty. I got interrupted, didn't I? So it advanced pretty quickly, and so now here towards the end of July, get out of here. That rooster's a big mouth. Twins. Anyway, maybe you'll scare him off just a little bit. Anyway, I like talking about this every year when it comes to dearth, because a lot of people will continue feeding through their hive top feeders. Well, the big issue with that is it's just like open feeding too close to your hives. You know, if you're within, I always like to say around 300 feet, at least a football field away of your colonies where you open feed, you should be just fine. But when you hive top feed, you're feeding right on top of all your colonies, and you can have all the entrance reducers you want, because when a feeding frenzy begins and they start robbing out those little colonies, because you gotta, when you run a bee yard, you know, most people don't have all strong colonies, especially in a breeding yard. So you'll have weak mingled in with strong. You'll have some little mini mate nukes, and then some big 5-frame nukes, or whatever you have. And the competition is overwhelming. If one of those big colonies want to come in and take over one of those little ones and demolish it and steal what honey they had, kill the queen, wreck the hive, kill it, done. So that's why I'm always a big believer, when they're in this mad frenzy of feeding, like they are, just like this, uncontrollable eating, like this, for example. I filled it up this morning, and it's right there. It's got about 2 inches left. They'll definitely have this done by the end of the day. 5 gallons of sugar. I think it was a 12-pound sack, I believe, that took to fill this, and that made it a little bit strong. That made it. Usually, you know, you're shooting for a 1-to-1 to get bees to generate comb build and brood, but this is probably more on the line of 1.5 to 1, or even maybe 2 to 1, because there's a lot of sugar in there. But anyway, and another thing I wanted to talk about, and I get through this every year with people, and it's a lot of them that just don't know. They just don't have the experience to realize. They say open feeding, that'll cause disease. That'll cause all these bees to mingle in with all these other bees coming from different communities and spreading disease. they couldn't be more wrong. You couldn't be more wrong. If that's the case, like I say every year, then you need to shut down anybody that's got sugar spilled out in the yard, local dumpsters, local restaurants that have dumpsters full of drinks and sugary substances. You can't shut it down. These bees are going to community feed somewhere. People really need to get that in their head. They're going to community feed somewhere. And they say, yeah, but by feeding on, you're keeping them at home by a hive top feeding them. Well, how about the ones you're going to lose because they're going to be overwhelmed by the bigger colonies? It just doesn't make sense, and it never made sense to me. I've never had any diseases from community feeding, and I argue this every year. I'm a strong believer on this. It does not, this will not harm your bees, and I don't care what people comment on there, and you comment all you want. This will not harm your bees. This is the safest thing to do at this time of year till you get past the dearth. When you come back into a better nectar flow in the fall, you can start resuming again in the hive top feeders where the bees aren't as violent as they are right now. And I don't mean violent as in attacking people. I mean talking about violent as attacking each other. They're in a frenzy. They're in a mad, hurry up, eat now frenzy, and they're everywhere. Even though we've had rain, you can look around this pond, and these bees are packed on every little ledge all the way around trying to get moisture for their hives. And of course, anything sugary, they're coming after. So one thing I want to talk about, I mention this every year, and I know the video gets old, it's a year old, so some people may not see, especially the new beekeeper. Do not be afraid to open feed. Try it for yourself. It's not going to hurt anything. Keep it a good distance away from your colonies. I always like to say a football field away, at least, or as far as you can possibly put it. You know, I always, you could probably be okay with 200 feet, but try to keep it as far away as possible from your colonies, because the closer you are, just like hive top feeding. That's why they tell you not to put an open feeder close to your hives, because it can cause a feeding frenzy. Well, it's the same thing when you're feeding hive top feeders. It is covered up, but those other bees will find it, and they will sniff it out and smell it through the vent holes, and they'll attack that hive and take what they got. Trust me on this. Let people say what they want, but you want to make more bees, this is the way to do it. This is the safest way to do it to get into fall, to get through this dangerous time of the year of the dearth, when things start blooming again and we get a little bit of goldenrod and some late fall clover and other things that'll be popping up at that time of year, you know, into September and October. So I just wanted to point that out. Just a little quick video on the feeding during the dearth. Don't forget, folks, please help share our videos, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching BarnYard Bees.